Hello everyone, welcome to my first attempt at making an aviation content instructional video. I'm going to try and put this together just using an iPad and iMovie to stitch it together, so bear with me as I learn how to work all the editing and sound quality and things. So I need some content to talk about to figure out how this works, so I decided to talk about traffic pattern altitudes. You may ask, what in the world could he possibly make a video on traffic pattern altitudes? That's just the altitude you fly when you're in the downwind, right? You fly it, you maintain it, ta-da, you're done. When I ask people, what's the traffic pattern altitude at XYZ airport, they'll say it's 1,000 feet AGL. And that would be the correct answer, except for when it's not. So let's dive in a bit and figure out how we can determine what the traffic pattern altitude is for an airport. Is it 1,000 feet AGL or is it something else? So let's dive into our FAR AIM, hopefully a current one, specifically the AIM portion, the Aeronautical Information Manual. The AIM is not regulatory. The regs are over on the other side, the FAR side, Federal Aviation Regulations. But the AIM does contain a lot of good information and recommendations that the FAA provides. Chapter 4, Section 3.3, Traffic Patterns. Here we can see the FAA recommends that we enter the pattern at one of the following altitudes listed below. These should be maintained unless another pattern altitude is published in the chart supplement. That's our airport facility directory. Or unless required to maintain cloud distance requirements and any other regs that you got to adhere to. So for propeller-driven aircraft, they recommend 1,000 feet AGL. For large turbine aircraft, 1,500 feet AGL, or 500 above whatever's established. And helicopters get to be quite a bit lower, down at 500 feet. So here's that default answer of 1,000 feet AGL, unless it's established otherwise in the chart supplement. So let's go take a look at a couple examples of that. Here we have Champaign, Illinois, field elevation of 755 MSL, and down there in the airport facility directory section in the green highlighting, you can see a traffic pattern altitude, TPA, has been published of 1,505 MSL or 750 feet AGL. So that's different than the default 1,000 feet AGL that the AIM was recommending. So there's a good example of one that's otherwise established. And up in the top part there, in ForeFlight, depending on what electronic flight bag you use, could be FlyQ, WingX, Garmin, whatever, they will tend to publish a traffic pattern altitude as well, and you can see it's 1,505, but I want to talk about that towards the end of the video and how that's not always going to match what you find in the airport facility directory. Here we have Jacksonville, Illinois, field elevation of 624, and down in the airport facility directory, you can see there is no TPA notation, no traffic pattern altitude otherwise established. So for flying into Jacksonville, we can use the AIM's recommendation of 1,000 feet AGL. Now we see Taterville, Illinois, field elevation 622, and there in the green highlighting in the airport facility directory, there is a TPA, but it says see remarks. So we'll have to dive down a bit into the remarks to see what's going on with the traffic pattern altitude. And note up there in the top where I circled, ForeFlight says the pattern altitude is 1622 estimated. So that's 1,000 feet AGL, but we're going to see what's down in the remarks and see what we get officially from the FAA. So down in our remarks, we can see we have two different traffic pattern altitudes depending on what runway we're using. Runway 9 left, 27 right, 1222 MSL, 600 feet AGL. And then for the two paved runways, 9 right, 27 left, and 1836, 1422 or 800 feet AGL. Neither of which are the 1,000 feet that the AIM recommends. And interestingly enough, neither one matches what ForeFlight says the traffic pattern altitude is. So if the AIM is not regulatory, do I really have to adhere to the altitudes that we just covered? Am I going to get in trouble if I don't? I heard a designated examiner at a safety seminar not long ago say he doesn't care what altitude you fly the traffic pattern at. As long as you're adhering to all the other regs, minimum safe altitudes, distance from clouds, just maintain it while you're in the traffic pattern. On the other side, I read a thread on Pilots of America where a person talked about how they failed a check ride on their diversion maneuver. They elected to enter the traffic pattern 1,000 feet AGL, but the published traffic pattern altitude in the chart supplement was 800 feet AGL. The examiner knew it and failed the applicant because they were more than 200 feet off of the published traffic pattern altitude. So what about ForeFlight having a different pattern altitude listed in their little data block compared with what is in the FAA chart supplement? I tried to do some research on the internet and didn't get a good definitive answer, but it sounds like a lot of the electronic flight bags use a database. It's either provided by AOPA, possibly even by the FAA themselves, which would be ironic, that the numbers would be different than what's in the airport facility directory. And that is what the electronic flight bags are displaying on that airport page. So, which should you use? I would recommend that you spend the whopping 10 seconds it would take to actually click into the airport facility directory, chart supplement, and see if there is a published traffic pattern altitude. If there is, use that. If there's not, use the 1,000 feet AGL. Should keep everybody happy. FAA, designated examiners, etc. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, comments, smart remarks, let me know. And if you have any ideas for upcoming videos, let me know that as well. Thanks.